Hey everyone, welcome back to the 443 Security Simplified. I'm your host, Mark the Liberty, and joining me today is not
Ryan.
Corey.
Yeah, a little bit different. Ryan Estes, analyst, not CISO. So makes the big bucks I don't.
Yep. For those that have listened to this podcast before, you're probably familiar with Ryan. Ryan is our resident ransomware expert at WatchGuard and the maintainer of our public ransomware tracker. So we'd like to have Ryan on periodically just to see what's going on with ransomware. And this is another one of those episodes. So yeah, Ryan, thanks for hopping on, and I guess we can jump right into it.
Yeah, let's get to it.
So first things first, Ryan, just like open floor. I know like internally within our team, you like to share like what's happening. You periodically write like update posts on our Secplicity, just like thought leadership blog about what's going on in the ransomware space. But I want to give you just an open floor of like, what's some of the interesting stuff that you've been seeing? And maybe we can chat about some of the trends or just new things going on in the world of ransomware.
Yeah, overall, not good. So it looks like the numbers are going to be shattering records. So it looks like probably like 30 to 40% higher than a year over last year. So, and that is extortion groups like publicly. So the ones
The
that we
number
track.
of individual like operators out there,
Yeah,
or not necessarily
victims.
operators, but groups.
Yeah, groups and victims. So the number of groups we're tracking, the most we've ever tracked, over 100. A little outdated. It's probably around 90, 95, but it's around 100, which is a lot. Victims are up at like 30 to 40%, like I said. So everything's up. Nothing's really down. Haven't really got the analysis on the extortions yet. That's usually through a chain analysis. They do a lot of blockchain analysis. But yeah, it seems like everything else is up, and I could imagine that that's probably up too.
What is your definition of active in this case?
Active is either the extortion page is up and running. I guess you can go to it. It's there. It's running. It's has victims posted. Blah blah blah. Or if they've posted in like the last month or something like that, like dormant, you could say. And I think a group called No Bulge just did that. They're the ones who very dislike AI. They're the ones who breached. I think it was Disney's Slack channel, and they extorted a bunch of data from there. But yeah, anything that's up and running or has recently published something that's considered active. So if, I usually go through them manually to figure out if they're not active, because they could go down for like a day or a few hours and then come right back up. That's very common.
But like, so when let's say the FBI comes knocking on the door, one of the first things they do is take over that blog or whatever, or take it down, or I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
if
So that
they've
happens
been
sometimes.
disrupted, it goes away.
Yeah, if there's a disruption, they usually rebrand. So I usually just deactivate, and I guarantee they'll come back as like another group. That happens all the time. So yeah, they're considered not active if there's a takedown for sure. But
Okay.
it's common that they get taken down, they'll come right back up. That's not uncommon either. So just a constant monitoring game.
So you mentioned like taken down and come back. Like there's been plenty of examples in the past of operators that, get disrupted by the FBI. Maybe in a couple of their members get arrested in like Ukraine or something,
Yeah.
but then they pop back up under another new name. Like, have there been any of those recently that you've seen kind of come back or resurface?
The scattered group has had a few people that have been arrested for sure. I don't know their names. I don't remember. But they've been very active. A lot of the groups, and usually the people that get arrested are not like the upper heads of it. It's usually
Uh,
like the affiliates or someone that's acting on their behalf, and they just get they happen to
okay.
be in France on vacation and get picked up by the FBI. So,
So don't go to France if you happen to be a ransomware operator or an affiliate in one of these cases.
yeah, don't go on vacation.
That's a good point. What was it? The LinkedIn breach back in 2012? The guy that hacked them ended up getting arrested when he went to vacation in like Prague and even got extradited to the United States,
Yeah.
and I think just got out of prison a couple of years ago. But
That's really like the only thing that takes them down, because you can take down the infrastructure, but they can just spin some right back up. I mean, you can take down subsidiaries or affiliates, and it doesn't really affect the whole operation as a whole. They might just be like, "Oh, we have too much heat on us right now. Maybe we should go back and rebrand or like go dormant for a little bit." And that's
like
very common.
Black Cat's an example of that, right? Where they hit, was it Black Cat that hit United Health Group or whatever, and then just like dropped off the face of the earth with all the money they extorted
Yeah, it was
to.
a subsidiary of United Health, I think. Yeah.
Anyways, nuts. Um,
Yeah.
have there been any like interesting ones that have come back? Like you wrote a post recently on like, Denon. I don't know,
I
Denon.
pronounce it Dianon. Yeah, I don't know how
Okay,
to pronounce
Denon sounds better.
it. Yeah, Denon. Yes, I did. Yeah, basically, long story short, it's they came back as another group called Whitelock, and the only interesting thing about DNon, I think, was that they were very loud in how they extorted their victims. So a lot of they'll just say, "Hey, we have your data. Give us 7 days or pay, and then we'll publish it if you don't." They were saying like, "Hey, step one, we're going to give you this amount of time. Step two, we're going to contact your insurance company. Step three, we're going to contact your leadership team. If you don't pay, we're going to contact your clients and partners. And then if you don't, we're going to contact the authorities like the SEC and stuff like that." So they would just go through a process of like yelling at everyone, like, "Hey, we have your data." And I didn't see any encryptors from them or anything. So I don't know if they were deploying ransomware or not, but I know they were extorting data for sure. And they were very loud about it. And then the Whitelock group or whatever, individual, whoever it is, they have just a chat log page. So you go to the Tor website, it's just, "Hey, enter your ID and you can chat with us." And you can kind of get past it, and it's 4 Bitcoin for every extortion. But they are doing ransomware now. So they've gone from just doing data to ransomware, which actually the trend right now I'm seeing is that ransomware to just data exfiltration. So they kind of flipped the script, but it's all still steal data, or I'll encrypt you, or give me money. It's the same process.
You mentioned that the trend of ransomware to just data theft. So I think we talked about in our last security report, was it? Where maybe it wasn't theirs, but like the majority of operators are now trending towards just stealing your data and extorting you versus encrypting it. Is that, you said that is what you're seeing?
I wouldn't say like they're doing it more. I'm saying we're seeing it more from other groups because there's so many more groups now. It's not like groups are switching to that. It's that the newer groups that are popping up, they don't see a need to just encrypt. All they got to do is get your data. That's more important. If they encrypt, that's like almost like an extortion type now. Like, "Hey, we're going to steal your data and we're going to encrypt your systems, and you have to pay us." So it's the evolution of ransomware, unfortunately.
So the data theft itself is like the most important piece now, where I don't know.
I would say, well, it depends on who you are. I mean,
Sure.
Jaguar Land Rover doesn't think that's true because they can't even do operations at all in the UK. So they're talking about bankruptcy in the last news article. So I mean,
Yeah, what happened with that? So they got and their factories got taken down.
yeah, it was like all their factories in the UK, and so they can't really do anything for the next few months, and it's like millions a day. They can't do business, and they're talking about bankruptcy, and all this is allegedly. I don't want to talk for them, of course, but this is all on the news that they can't really do much in the UK, and that's a very large UK brand. Jaguar Land Rover is, so it's pretty disruptive. Right? Yeah, I mean that's where they all are built, I think. So it's not
I
good.
actually went and did a tour of their factory outside of somewhere outside of London on the west. I don't remember, but yeah, that is nuts. Like an actual major car manufacturer getting shut down, and
Yeah, it still is
talking at least about bankruptcy because of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, and it's huge for their economy. So, like I said, not good, and they don't really care if they're extorting or exfiltrating data at this point. They can't even use anything. They can't repair cars. They can't do anything. So
it's crazy. That's absolutely insane. So what about another one you brought up was a really interesting story. Kyber, which is an operator I'd never heard of until you mentioned them internally about a couple weeks ago. But you want to walk us through like them and what's going on?
Yeah, there was a ransom note. I think I either saw it from a Twitter researcher or a Virus Total entry. I don't remember. But basically, the ransom note had to go to a website, and this is how a lot of new groups are discovered, is through like submissions on Virus Total or like samples where you run it, you get the ransom note, you're like, oh, it has a Tor domain, you go to, and you're like, oh, this is a new group. And so you do that, and their only group posted as of right now, still, I just looked at it, is L3 Harris. I don't know anything about L3 Harris when I first saw it, but I come to learn that they're a very important defense contractor for the United States. They make the Viper Shield, which is like electronic, like defensive warfare for fighter jets. The Stingray, which is like a man in the middle cell phone tower type thing, and
A lot of
a
people have
bunch,
probably heard of the Stingray before.
yeah, and a bunch of other electronic, just communication devices for the Defense Department, which is pretty important in the wrong hands. And I saw that and I was like, oh, Kyber new group, and I analyzed the sample for a little bit, and they used like the Kyber 1024 algorithm, which is post quantum, which is pretty interesting. You don't see that a lot, but you might see it more in the future, by the way. And so I was like, okay. And at the same day, I read an article on TechCrunch about how there's this individual named I think, let me get it, Jay Gibson, it's a made up name because this person trying to protect his identity. And basically he was scapegoated, saying that he was leaking secrets from like cyber defense or cyber warfare tools to Russians. And he said he was scapegoated from his boss, and his boss's name is Peter Williams. And I was like, okay, I don't think anything of that right now. But 2 days later, it came out an indictment that Peter Williams is allegedly, he was the one selling the secrets. So he fired the person, apparently, that he scapegoated, but he was actually doing it. And then I was like, okay, how does this relate to the Kyber one, L3 Harris Online? Because L3 Harris, they're leaking cyber warfare tools, but now they have data on their data leak or from a ransomware group. And it's a whole spin. I'm like, how are these all related? Are they related? And so, but I don't go through data, especially this type of data. I don't download it and go through it. But based on like file names, there's a whole GitHub repository of like communications devices and a bunch of like database tools. So they could be related. It could be circumstantial because they do a lot of work. But I thought it was really interesting because it all came out at the same time. So I was wondering if they're related at all. So
yeah, super interesting. Like I can see why, from just an espionage perspective, someone in Russia would absolutely want to get their hands on this data.
Yeah.
But then even from just thinking ransomware extortion operator, like it is maybe not common, but at least it happens where they will pay an insider to like steal data and then turn around and extort the company for that.
Yeah.
And
that could be what it is. Yeah.
Because maybe that is like the boss or whatever, or the employee, who knows? I'm sure it'll get figured out in court at some point, but they got paid to leak the data, and then now they're turning around and getting extorted from whatever. It could be related. There's a lot of smoke, it seems like.
Yeah, and it's not good because, like I said, the stuff they create is very critical, I would say, to U.S. defense. So not good. That's still posted, by the way, unfortunately. And got my dog barking back there. She doesn't like it either. So
I'm trying to the privacy advocate in me, I'm okay with Stingray stuff getting leaked because it's the U.S. that tends to get weaponized against our own citizens. But the American in me is uncomfortable with DoD and like tradecraft stuff like this being potentially leaked out there.
Yeah, there's an important information I actually completely forgot. It just hit me, is that he was the person that was scapegoated. He was scapegoated because he had a spyware notification on his iPhone that he was getting attacked by spyware. And he was like, no, I'm not. So he was going to give this device over to get forensics on it to make sure it wasn't actually infected. And it's like, it's not, but we need a full forensic image of it to make sure. And he's like, no, I make cyber warfare tools for the US government. I can't do that. And so no one really knows if he was or not like infected with it. And so no one knows if he was scapegoated, but also the indictment of his manager or whatever saying that he's actually selling his secrets is just drama.
It sounds, yeah, plausible. He could be correct or not lying in this case, especially if his boss is the one that got indicted for it and he's the one that got fired.
Yeah.
Some weird bit of irony of a developer of cyber warfare tools gets a notification that a cyber warfare tool has been detected on his iPhone.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty interesting that the iPhone detected it, that it was spyware. It's probably like Pegasus or something, right? Mm-hmm. And detected it and was able to block it. And I think that's pretty cool too, actually.
That is cool. Hats off to Apple. I feel like Google would just, I don't know, serve it up to you on a silver platter in their app store or something instead.
Yeah. So all this data is actually public. It's on the TechCrunch has 2 articles about it right now in the last few days. And I mean, if you are capable, the daily site's up. I'm not encouraging people to go to it, but it's all up there.
Guess if you want to keep or potentially in the future get a security clearance, maybe stay away from it. But
I'm not messing with it. Someone just got indicted for this stuff. I ain't touching it. Yeah.
have you seen? Because one of the things you keep track of is like the extortion type. Is it?
Yeah.
Do you also keep track of like how the data gets stolen? Like what I'm getting at here is this is a possible scenario where an insider was paid or induced into stealing data and giving it up. I'm curious, have you seen many other operators act with that sort of a technique of going after an insider and getting them to pay to steal data or something?
Yeah, the new scattered group is pretty much the one. Like the scattered lapsus, shiny hunters, calm, whatever you want to call them. They're all about, hey, we'll pay you money, give us access. Hey, call your customer service and act like I'm someone else. And that's probably the biggest problem right now. It's kind of like that issue, the AI vishing and calling customer service is one of it. The ransomware as a service with all the actual encrypting groups with the affiliates is another one. You have groups like Clop, which do the data exfiltration from 0 days, and that's actually ongoing with the Oracle one right now. They're posting a lot of victims. I'm guessing probably related to that, unfortunately. And so you have a bunch of different types of ransomware type of groups now that you have to worry about, not just encrypting, but also mass data exfiltration or like 0 day software bugs and stuff like that. So it's just coming at every direction. There's more groups, there's more methods, there's more victims, there's more money, just more.
The insider one specifically scares the crap out of me just because, like, if you think about I don't know, level 1 help desk person somewhere in like Europe or somewhere, like, they're making a comfortable amount of a comfortable salary, whatever it is. But if a ransomware operator comes along and says, if someone from Scattered Lapsus Spider or whatever says, hey, I'll give you 10 grand to give me your browser cookie for your Microsoft Entra session, that's a lot of money. And
with
people
Discord
with with looser morals or something, or maybe debts they need to pay, it could be convincing for them to go do that. And then now, man, how the hell do you defend against that?
Yeah, that was actually happening with Discord with that same group. I think they talked about doing what they did. It was they extorted someone in Southeast Asia for a lot of money. That was relatively a lot of money. And so they were like, okay, it's like a yearly salary, but it was not, it was like $10,000 or something like that. And they just like, hey, here's access to it. And so they just exfiltrated a bunch of data from Discord. That's how the Discord one happened. So it's customer service or someone with access who is like, across the globe or something.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So,
man, that's crazy. So we've talked a couple times about like the Scattered Spider / Shiny Hunter / Lapsus folks that have all seemed to collect together now. And when we were talking about this like earlier today before recording, you mentioned one thing that stood out to me where, so you've heard of Anonymous, the hacking organization, where there isn't really a anonymous, like you don't get a membership card to it. It is just anyone can claim to be a part of Anonymous when they go do something. It's more of like a not a way of life, but like I don't know how to describe it. It's not it's an idea, I guess.
Yeah.
And do you feel like some of these like extortion operators are trending that way too, where like Lapsus or Shiny Hunters, like the number of times I've heard that like Lapsus's ringleader has been arrested is like 4 times so far, and they're still around. Like at what point does it become kind of like a anonymous thing where it's just people using the brand?
It kind of already is. They advertise a extortion as a service, EAAS, where you can basically use their name and say, hey, I'm part of Scattered or whatever, give me money and stuff like that. So it's like an extortion method saying like, I'm part of this group, you better pay up, almost like a mob mentality. And it's kind of what they do right now.
Wonder if they do any like brand protection stuff where if you don't pay them for that and you say I'm part of Scattered, whatever, do they come after you now?
Yeah, I don't know. I know that group is I think they're trying to lay low right now because there's a woman named, she calls herself Sevi on Twitter or X, whatever you call it. And she's very open that she is an admin for this group. And she lives in Turkey. She's a Russian national, but she lives like lavishly and things like that. But she post like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going dormant, or I don't want to, like, they just publicly post about what they're doing. They're very loud, as I like to call it, about it. And so they just really don't care as long as they're not in the jurisdiction of getting arrested. And they're just like, whatever, I don't care.
You said in Turkey? That feels like bold, because I could have sworn like US and Turkey have an extradition treaty. Like, we're at least allies. We're in NATO together. They're a part of the European Union. You'd think that that wouldn't be as safe as like actually in Russia or in even Ukraine or some other Eastern European countries.
Yeah, you'd think. And this is where ransomware kind of gets interesting, because it's not only just about software and IT, but then you blur the lines between like decision making in organizations and how we're going to respond. And then you also get into like geopolitics, because you get groups that are like, hey, we're going to attack Israel because we like Iran, or hey, we like Russia, so we're going to attack Ukraine. We're going to put wipers and ransomware and all that stuff. And so it's blurring the lines between like geopolitics and software and cyber warfare and all that. And I think that's why it's really interesting, but it forces you to have to know about all this stuff too, like the world around you. Because
that's crazy.
Yeah.
What do you think the solution to this is? Like, obviously, if everyone stops paying ransom demands, they go away, right? But like,
I don't think so.
That feels like a stretch to even get to that point. Like, you look at Land Rover, if they're literally talking about potential bankruptcy, I bet they're highly incentivized to just pay the damn ransom extortion if that could get them back online.
Yeah, I think you'll always, unfortunately, have a couple people who will pay because they don't have any other choice. And this is where you get into like legality and stuff like that. Like, what's the best way to stop it? And obviously, we don't know, because the numbers are going in the wrong direction. You have like ransomware groups out of Australia leading like coordinated efforts around the globe to stop this, and you just don't see the fruits of their labor. You have takedowns of infrastructure, doesn't really do anything. You can arrest a few people, but the operation still goes on from the head down. And it has to be basically like a government effort. Like, the reason it's prolific in Russia and all these places is because Putin doesn't really care, as long as you're not attacking his country or his ideas or his motives, whatever you want to call it. I mean, he just looks the other way, like, oh, hey, cool. Sometimes they work together. So, yeah.
That is tough. That is very tough to defend against something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it almost feels like, I mean, it's not like, it feels like we need something like the entities list, like, organizations you cannot pay money to because they're sanctioned, and like maybe ransomware as a whole, you're not allowed to do it. But that is a very tough like regulation or law to write in a country, where you say, hey, you, the victim of this attack, one of the ways that you could potentially get your data back, no, not legal. Go enjoy bankruptcy or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that too, by the way.
Yeah. It's easy for me to sit up here in my ivory tower and say never pay the extortion demand, but like, it becomes a existential question for some organizations, and it feels tough to take that away by law if you have to.
I mean, the battle's still ongoing. If you heard about CZ Binance recently, he was recently pardoned by Trump because he was allowing this money to come through, and he doesn't really know all the people who go through. He's just, hey, it's money out the door and money in the door. And you can sanction places like Tornado Cash, like mixers, stuff like that, but then they'll just go get another one or go to an exchange where the US doesn't have jurisdiction over it and stuff. So crypto makes it impossible to target it financially, in my opinion, because there's always just going to be another coin or something where you can just launder it through. So I don't have the answers.
Tornado Cash is an interesting tangent to go down real quick. So it's if I remember, it's like an open source crypto mixing tool, correct? And didn't like the author or the creator of it even get thrown into prison for it?
I think so. I don't know if it's open source. I don't have that information, to be honest, but I don't know if he was thrown in prison. I think there's something about the person who created it, but I don't have the information off the top of my head.
Let's see, it says founder Ramon Storm was convicted in August of 2025 for conspiring to operate unlicensed money transmission businesses. So yeah, they did
very recently, yeah,
throw the book at him pretty recently.
But again, there's a ton of other mixers and stuff like that, and they'll just put the headquarters of the crypto in whatever Cayman Islands or Liechtenstein, whatever you want. So
this one, I remember this one specifically because it runs off of Ethereum, and Ethereum has like the concept of smart contracts where you can basically write programs on the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I found out about it because it used to be hosted on GitHub, and the U.S. government forced Microsoft to take it down off GitHub, and that's like, whoa, what the hell are you doing? It's open source.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went and arrested the founder in the Netherlands for even just creating the tool.
Oh, I didn't hear about
because it could facilitate money. Well, it did facilitate money laundering, but like you said, like this is one thing. This is arguably the most like, not the most, but at least like a easily available one, sure. But there are like a million other options behind the scenes for laundering money on cryptocurrency and any blockchain.
Yeah, there's no one better at it than North Korea right now. Their entire economy is literally stealing crypto. Like you can do the numbers. Their GDP is mainly crypto theft. It is wild. It makes no sense.
That is insane.
Yeah,
man,
and they're good at it.
They unfortunately are very good at it.
Yeah.
Another thing that popped up recently was so remember back in 2022, the CISO, or I guess ex-CISO of Uber, was convicted of a couple of felonies, sentenced to I think 3 years of parole for covering up the 2016 Uber breach. The additional context on that for folks that I guess aren't familiar with it: Uber had a data breach back in 2016. They stole a bunch of like secrets from Uber. If I remember right, it was basically they gained remote access into the environment through a compromised VPN account, and then they found a break glass in case of emergency document with a whole bunch of like root credentials for all of Uber's tools. They started stealing data. They started posting it on breach forums and whatever incarnation it was at the time, and on Twitter. And then the Uber CISO, presumably with the support, approval, or dictate from the CEO, tried to classify the extortion payment as a just bug bounty payment and like sweep it under the rug, and ended up getting the book thrown at him in the courts for that, for basically covering up the breach. Well, he was just interviewed by the Register recently, and there was a couple of interesting things from the interview that I thought might be interesting to get your opinion on, Ryan, or at least chat about on here.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the early things I touched on was a lot of these operators right now for data theft and ransomware and these extortion groups seem to be run by, I said kids, but at least like very young adults, like ranging from teenagers, literally like 16 or older, up to the very low 20s. Like Lapsus, if you remember, like the original Lapsus ringleader was like an 18-year-old dude from England, where the first time he was arrested, no one even found out his name because he was too young. He was still a minor.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the second time he got arrested that we finally figured out who this young adult or kid was. But the hot takes he had were interesting. Where basically he said he loosely blames video games without blaming video games by basically saying kids these days are all, they're trying to get the high score no matter what, even if it means cheating, and they're motivated to get more aggressive with their moves, either if they're allowed or not.
Starting things with kids these days is never good fun, though, by the way. But go ahead.
And then he did make the point that like kids or teens, they don't have the same like judgment around risk, which can lead them to getting like deeper into trouble and just doing more like bigger and bigger hacks, for lack of a better word, against organizations until they're in too deep. I'm curious, like, do you see from like the operators that it seems to be edging towards the younger crowd? Do you think there's any truth to this, that it's just a bunch of dumb kids that don't understand risk doing all of this? Or I don't know. Curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it's hard to say who's behind all these attacks, right? Because if we knew, we'd probably go after them. But from like all the Russians and stuff that we know, and a few Chinese nationals and a few Europeans and stuff, that most of them are 20s, 30s. Not a lot of older people, but the scatter group specifically is younger, like in the teens. But I'm saying it's like video games and stuff. I think that's been disproven so many times. But I think it's more of
Grand Theft Auto makes you steal data from companies.
I don't know. I've never played Grand Theft Auto and performed Grand Theft Auto, so I can't say, but I just don't think that's true. But I will say that we do live in an environment where you're increasingly less outside and interactive, and you're part of your environment. You are your thoughts. You are your experiences. So if you're just experiencing, a phone that's showing like, violence and stuff like that, then eventually you're going to start thinking that that's the world that we live in, because you don't experience much else. Your experiences are an algorithm at that point, feeding you, what to think. And so I think that's actually mostly part of it. And video games, of course, plays a little role, but to say that it's just video games and that kids these days play too much games, so they're going to go ransom the biggest companies in the world is preposterous in my opinion. But it does play a role, but how much? I don't think it's significant.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with that assessment.
Yeah.
He also, again, pointed out that the CISO is really trending towards the chief scapegoat officer these days for some of these incidents. And I thought he made a good point that even the judge in this case made a good point that, where the heck is the CEO in this? It's not like he was acting rogue. This would have had to have been done with the approval or at least the knowledge by the rest of the executive staff. So it's interesting that the CISO specifically is the one that got thrown under the bus for it.
I'd love to have Corey on at this point because he's the perfect person to talk to for this. I'm not a CISO, unfortunately, but yeah, I don't know enough about that, but yeah.
Corey and I have chatted about that and how his job is less and less appealing for me eventually, because it does feel like it's trending towards the chief scapegoat officer in some cases.
Yeah, I think he has a point there though, that it should have been a business. What's the word I'm looking for? They should have been
the business held accountable, the executive team held accountable.
Yeah, it should not have been just him targeted specifically. I think the Uber as a whole should have been the one at fault, if that makes sense. But yeah.
The other question that came up in it was they asked so how come no one else has been held accountable to his level since then? At first, when this happened 2 years ago, it seemed like it was maybe the start of the floodgates opening and the government was going to start going after all these CISOs for data breaches, but it was kind of like a one and done there.
I think the government likes to take low hanging fruit like that and try to make a message out of it, and hopefully it works. And the fact that it didn't, they're just like, oh crap. So yeah. I don't know. It just feels like that a lot. They're like, oh, we got a really easy one that we can tag them and make a message out of everyone, and it just didn't work out that way.
That seems like a fair assessment. They pointed to maybe even the the environment is changing too. For that, it was a pretty simple data theft, all things considered. They broke in, stole some data from Uber, and then left. But these days now it is more of a business and existential threat, the Land Rover thing, for example, where I think his quote was so it's not like when we talked about data breaches and stood up in front of a board 5 years ago and warned that some data might be leaving the building. Now boards and CEOs understand that companies are going out of business because operations shut down. Which it feels like an escalation, and that feels on brand with what we're seeing lately.
I think that's always kind of been the case. I think some CEOs have known that, but I think more and more are realizing that it's almost foundational. You have to be prepared for something like this, and based on the numbers, the numbers speak for themselves. It's becoming more ubiquitous. And the common term is it's not if we'll get hacked, it's when we'll get hacked. You know that one? Yeah. It's kind of true.
That's what Corey and I say to the company here at WatchGuard is that our job isn't to stop every single security incident. That is literally impossible. Yeah. Our job is to make sure that as a company, we recover from it as quickly as possible.
Risk mitigation.
With the least amount of damages. So yeah, it totally makes sense. It is crazy seeing what's happening in Land Rover right now. And God, I hope we don't ever, knock on wood, encounter something like that. But
yeah, agreed.
At least we would be prepared. I have no idea what their GRC program looks like at Land Rover, but I'm sure right now there's a lot of hindsight is 2020 introspective looking going on.
I agree with that. Yeah. It's all about risk. Cybersecurity is basically just risk analysis, risk assessment, risk negation, risk avoidance, whatever you want to call it. Everything you do is that how much risk can I take? How much risk can I give? Is this enough? Is this enough risk mitigation? Stuff like that. And basically use tools, you use training, whatever like that. But it's all about just risk. It's the main word.
Well said. So I wanted to end, Ryan, you are one of the people most plugged in, on our team here at WatchGuard, most plugged into the threat landscape, especially in ransomware, but even outside that, just the goings on of hacking groups out there. I was just, again, open floor, wanted to pick your brain on like, what are some of the things that you follow or at least participate in to stay up to date on what's going on?
Participate in? I don't have much social media and stuff, so I'm mostly just a consumer, to be honest. But the mostly participate in the ransomware tracker. That's kind of my little baby here that I take care of. So in terms of like resources, I should probably post like a blog or something, all the ones I use. But basically, it's a ton of researchers on like Twitter and stuff like that. I can probably give you a few names here and there, but malware samples. So like Virus Total, Abuse CH, the Malware Bazaar, a couple GitHub repos are good. Here, I can give you, I actually have this pulled up almost constantly. Let me give you a few names here. So yeah, I use DFIR reports is a good one. They're really extensive, like how exactly this whole kill chain went through. That's a good one. They do some ransomware ones. Databreaches.net is a good one. They talk a lot, like exclusively with the threat actors themselves. Ransom Chats, which is a website by researchers, all like the negotiation chats that go on. You can actually read those. It's a website. It's pretty good. I read like Bleeping Computer, TechCrunch, all those. Let's see, John DiMaggio, Bushido Token, like a couple people like that. I should just make a post instead of just blabbering on here, but there's a ton of resources out there I use. I don't just get all this from my own thing. It's a whole community of people that we kind of just share ideas. Well, I don't share a lot except from the tracker, but yeah. So I might make a post about all the resources I use for ransomware stuff.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. The ransomware tracker has been really interesting to see grow from your just simple idea to pretty damn powerful tool of centralizing all of this knowledge about ransomware operators.
A lot on the horizon too. A lot of victims to be posted, automation. I might do like Teams webhooks and stuff like that. We'll see. Sky's the limit. There's a lot to look forward to.
That's cool.
Yep.
Well, Ryan, this has been super awesome. Looking forward to having you on next time. Actually, at the same time, I hope we never have to talk about ransomware again, but I know that's never going to be the case. So
I hope you do, but unfortunately, I guess I hope you do. I don't know how to say that, but yeah, it's one of those things.
Reality.
I get excited for new ransomware groups, but it's also simultaneously like, another one. Here we go. Yeah.
Given the reality we're in right now, I'm sure we will be chatting again at some point soon on the podcast. But
yep, I'll be here.
Definitely for the listeners, check out our Secplicity blog on watchguard.com. Ryan posts regular updates of like what's going on in the ransomware ecosystem there. Anytime something interesting pops up.
I apologize for my dog.
Never apologize for the dog.
Yeah.
Go pet the dog.
I will.
Cool. Well, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, everyone. Thanks again for listening. As always, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. If you have any questions on today's topics or suggestions for future episode topics, you can reach out to me on Blue Sky. I'm at itsmark.me. You can reach both of us on watchguard_technologies on Instagram. And we also follow most other social media places as well. And I'm sure you can find both of our emails too if you want to get a question directly to us.
Yep.
But thanks again for listening, and you will hear from us next week.
Take care, everyone. See ya.